Hello everyone and welcome to another brand new episode of Very Cold Lasagna on this fine week. I am your host, DylanLasagna. Welcome to the podcast that houses a safe and open listening platform that houses casual, hot and cold, and even the dumbest takes on the world of WWE, All Elite Wrestling, and the National Football League, and the wide world of sports in general. And man, I gotta tell you, I've learned a thing or two between the difference of hot and cold take. You know, I even though my show is called Very Cold Lasagna, and I frequently said, you know, this show is about the coldest takes on the world of wrestling and sports. I kind of like mix the two up, you know, between hot and cold takes. You know, hot takes are like, undefined, more opinionated, while cold takes are more generally like accepted, generally defined. So, that's why I frequently try to like mention like hot and cold, because I'm more on the hot side, even though it's called Very Cold Lasagna, because, my hot takes tend to be very like cold in terms of very dumb at the end of the day. But these are just my opinions. These are my general thought processes at the end of the day, and whether you like them or not, we all have our differing opinions. So we value our own viewpoints at the end of the day. So that being said, let's talk some wrestling, shall we, during this quiet NFL offseason. But I still like to talk some wrestling here and there, because we got a good show for you all today, and I want to talk to you guys about WrestleMania, because it kind of relates to what I'm about to talk to you all about today. WrestleMania 37 is happening in a couple weeks, and at the time I'm recording this, it is shaping up to be very bad. Like, it's literally the return of fans since the pandemic started, and I am having a lot of big concerns that, the two matches that are like, that actually three that they're going to hype up, or that they're trying to build towards, is starting to look very bad. You got Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship, and they're booking Bobby Lashley as if he's scared of Drew McIntyre already, but it might be just some mind games, like just to like trick Drew into play into a trap that, oh, I'm not actually scared, I'm actually gonna like beat the hell out of you come at WrestleMania. But on the surface it doesn't look good. Then you got the match that ended up getting a hashtag in Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair, hashtag main event Belair versus Banks. Yeah, that hashtag trended like this past Monday, and I want to speak on that hashtag a little bit right now. If you asked me 2 months ago if Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair deserved to main event WrestleMania 37, then it had a case to. I mean, sure, the WrestleMania 35 main event between Ronda Rousey, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte Flair was, I don't know, it wasn't bad. It wasn't like really bad, but it also wasn't really great, really good. It was just like below average. It was like it was just like borderline below average. There were a lot of botches, like it was sloppy. The crowd was like so out of it because it was such a long show. And now you got Sasha Banks, who is not generally the greatest wrestler right now. Oh, like, sorry, I had to offend all the Sasha Banks fans out there, but I'm sorry, it's true. And then you got Bianca Belair, who's still trying to find herself on the main roster. She has the charisma, she has like talent. It's just a matter of she's still trying to find herself on the main roster. And right now, as it stands, from a storyline perspective, like with what they're doing, there's no way, no how that this match deserves to be the main event of WrestleMania. Especially considering that they're doing this match on night 1 of WrestleMania, the same night as Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley, then no way does this deserve to be the main event. And I know a lot of Sasha stans, a lot of Bianca stans are gonna be upset about that, but I'm sorry, like the way you built this match up, even though yes, there are 2 black women in WWE, like they're gonna be the first 2 black women to main event WrestleMania if they do so. Then if you're basing it on race, then yeah, like you can't solely do that. You can't like give in into this like historical agenda. Like if you're gonna base off that, that's a terrible way to like base your main event around on. Like you gotta base it on the actual story, the actual character, the actual in ring like product. Now, yes, the WrestleMania 35 main event was a convoluted mess, but it kind of had a story going for it. It kind of did, and that's saying something. But with Sasha versus Bianca, what do they have going for it? What do they have going for it other than they're 2 women that they're trying to prove that they're the best. Like, I'm the boss, I'm the EST, but that's it. That's all you got. And they weren't even saying anything outside of that because, well, they were too busy teaming up with each other before Fastlane, and some dude named Reginald comes along the scene and tries to make moves on Sasha. Like, this is really your build for the SmackDown Women's Championship right here, and you want this to main event WrestleMania with just 3 weeks out? This is not good, people. This is really not good. So those are just my 2 cents on the whole main event Belair versus Banks thing. No, they shouldn't main event WrestleMania 37. So you can go eat it, Sasha stands. And some more quick wrestling news before we get into the main topic of the day is Peacock. The new home for the WWE Network is already editing out certain segments and matches in the WWE Network. Like the most notable thing that I noticed that certain wrestling sites that were playing around with Peacock was that they edited out Mr. McMahon saying the N-word at Survivor Series 2005, like to John Cena in that really awkward segment that some of you may know what happened. He said the word and Cena was just like, and then Booker T was just right there. And then he said, "Tell me he did not just say that." And yeah, that was a really awkward segment that I don't know how that managed to get through. I mean, it is what it was what it was, but it's just, I don't know, it's just weird. And then they edited out Roddy Piper's half blackface segment at WrestleMania 6. So, well, I don't know how I feel about this personally, but honestly, I would be concerned for what else NBC and Peacock would edit out in the future, because once the Attitude Era content starts coming in, especially with all the Raw is War stuff, all the bra and panty stuff, all the Val Venus stuff starts coming in, and all the like really raunchy Attitude Era stuff starts coming onto Peacock. Ooh, man. If it's entirely possible that those stuff could be heavily edited too. So, man, initially I thought Peacock was going to be like a good thing for WWE, like, but financially, possibly, but for fans, yeah, like, I don't see this as a good thing, especially for like the legacy content. So yikes. I forgot to mention this at the very beginning, but if for the video version of the podcast, I got a new buddy over there. I actually had her for a while. Her name is Maggie from SMG4. I know it's very unrelated to the show, to this show, but I just wanted to introduce you to all. I know it's kind of weird. So this is her little info card right here. Yeah, I know I'm kind of weird. I'm a weird guy doing this kind of crap. But just some things about her, because this is the card. This is the little card. I know it's kind of bright. This is the little card that it came with. So Maggie loves two things: training and hanging out with her friends. She's very resilient, so even though she's been through a lot lately, she's still determined to become Splatfest champion. Go check out that little SMG4 short film that they did to know what happened there. Also, she likes instant noodles. So if you want my honest opinion on SMG4, they do like these Gary's Mod like short videos with like based around Super Mario Bros. They were good like up until like 2018, 2019. And then after that, like once this transformation happened to one of my favorite characters, yeah, it kind of went downhill from there. I guess I just started running out of ideas. But yeah, totally unrelated to what we're talking about here on the show and in general, but you gotta introduce these things here now and then. So anyway, back to the topic at hand. Today I got a good show for you all. We're going back to the past once again. We're opening up the Old Icebox once more, and we're gonna be taking a look at one of the most, my opinion, retroactively, one of the most polarizing WrestleManias in history. And I say polarizing because not everyone was accepting of this certain individual, and this certain individual is looking to once again make headlines at this year's WrestleMania. And if you can't tell by the thumbnail already, you already know who I'm talking about. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's open up that Old Icebox and take a look at WrestleMania 30. Yes, that WrestleMania 30 where the Yes Movement finally had its glorious moment. But there's other stuff that happened during this WrestleMania. So let's take a quick little overview, have some little factoids about this WrestleMania. So this is literally like the 30th anniversary, WrestleMania XXX, this is literally WrestleMania's, it's OnlyFans, I guess, anniversary of the Super Bowl. I'm sorry, WrestleMania XXX. I know that people made a lot of jokes back then about the Roman numerals for WrestleMania 30. But anyway, this was held in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana. So it was actually a fitting, a fitting city to host the 30th anniversary of WrestleMania, because New Orleans is like one of those spots, like those city spots where they like to party. It's like one, I don't know. It's just one of those nice cities that like to have those parties, those Mardi Gras parties. And the Mercedes-Benz Superstones, obviously, if you watch football, if you pay attention to this channel, and if you pay attention to sports in general, it's home of the now Drew Brees-less New Orleans Saints. So yeah, at the time, Drew Brees was your quarterback, New Orleans Saints fan. Now he's not. He is retired from football. So the big thing around this WrestleMania was a lot of people wanted to see a Daniel Bryan, mainly the vocal internet wrestling community, like the really vocal internet wrestling community. They wanted to see Daniel Bryan win the WWE title, beat Triple H, beat Randy Orton, beat Batista, who just returned from a four-year hiatus and won the 2014 Royal Rumble match, but he was not met with the warmest welcome. And so yeah, Batista, WWE literally had to change course, because the loudest of wrestling fans, whether it be casual, core, hardcore, but mainly on the hardcore side, the hardcore side of the Yes movement wanted to see Daniel Bryan win the WWE title, like, so he can have the happy ending to months long of his journeys that started back at SummerSlam 2013. So, in case you don't know this, that Daniel Bryan literally was a dude just off the street, like when he made his debut in 2010, you know, when NXT was just a reality show. And then after that ended, and when he came back, you know, he was pretty much nothing, like, still. I mean, he feuded with The Miz and all that. And then after he won the U.S. title from The Miz, he still was practically nothing. And then after he won the World Heavyweight Championship in December 2011, you know, he got this whole yes gimmick. But it wasn't like an original thing. It was from UFC fighter Diego Sanchez, who was doing like cartwheels while saying the term yes. But, you know, it started to catch on with fans. So, like, it started to catch on with fans. And, you know, this new arrogant Daniel Bryan, like, people were starting to, like, you know, be fans of him. And it started to get even stronger and stronger, especially with the fact that Daniel Bryan lost in 18 seconds to Sheamus at WrestleMania 28. So people were chanting yes, and they were chanting no for when something bad happened to Daniel Bryan. People were chanting yes when something good happened to Daniel Bryan, or Daniel Bryan just showed up in general. And, you know, for the better part of like a year, Daniel Bryan was, you know, doing Team Hell No with Kane. And then once he was finally ready to break out on his own, well, he met John Cena for the WWE title at SummerSlam 2013. And once he actually won the WWE title from Cena in 2013, well, the Authority was born. Triple H pedigreed Daniel Bryan, and Randy Orton, who was the Money in the Bank winner at the time, cashed in on a lifeless Daniel Bryan. Triple H counted the pinfall. He demanded the referee to ring the bell, the timekeeper, I'm sorry. And Triple H practically handpicked Randy Orton to be the WWE champion. And that formed the Authority. You know, Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, and Randy Orton. And then you had a bunch of various other members throughout the years. But initially, it was just those three that just started. And pretty much it was just like the corporation back in the Attitude Era. They were trying to give the biggest disadvantages possible to the babyfaces, all while handpicking their supposed top guys in WWE. So this was pretty much the event that fans have been wanting to see, for Daniel Bryan to have his like big moment, his like big like conclusion to his story, because in the previous better part of half of the year, he's been screwed over time and time again. He's lost multiple WWE Championship matches, or he's like been in like oddball stories with the Wyatt family, or he wasn't included in the Royal Rumble match in 2014 that the recently returned Batista was in. And as such, the Pittsburgh crowd that year rejected Batista and cheered Roman Reigns, who was still with the Shield and still was a villain at the time. So you could tell how vocal these fans were for Daniel Bryan in support of the Yes Man. So it was a kind of crazy time in 2014 when I'd say the loudest of the IWC, the YWC, what have you, were starting to like take notice. They were starting to like gain prominence. So a lot of people were eager to see what was going to happen with Daniel Bryan. But again, other stuff happened on this show too. Like with the kickoff show, there was a WWE Tag Team title match. The Usos versus Cesaro and Jack Swagger versus Los Matadores and Rybaxel in a Fatal 4-Way elimination match. Now, unfortunately, when I was trying to watch this match back, whether it was through Peacock or, you know, through the, you know, the other way, I couldn't find it. I really couldn't find it. Peacock didn't have it for some reason or another. I couldn't find it through the other way. I couldn't find it on YouTube. I thought the pre-show would have had it on YouTube because, kickoff matches usually happen on pre-shows nowadays. But, I guess they didn't have it. So, I don't know. I can't really say much about this match, but, if you thought the tag team division was, is not great today, I mean, it wasn't as bad in 2014. I mean, you have the Usos, who are a good tag team, but it's not the same Usos that you currently see in today's WWE. I mean, the Usos that you see in today's WWE are actually a lot better than the ones back in 2014. And the Real Americans, Cesaro and Jack Swagger. I mean, now known as Jake Hager in AEW. Like Cesaro, we'll get into it a lot more into him like later because he was in another match that night. And who remembers Los Matadores? And then we all know what happened to Ryback, so they didn't do much. Ryback became a big crybaby once he left WWE. And is Curtis Axel still even employed with WWE? I don't even know. But, at least, I don't know. There were some tag teams back in the day, but I don't know. Maybe not as strong as I thought. So, before the opening match, there was actually an opening segment for WrestleMania 30. And what better way to kick it off than Hulk Hogan? Hulk Hogan came out because he was the host of WrestleMania 30. And it was actually, retroactively looking back at it, it was actually a great way to have Hulk Hogan, be the host of WrestleMania 30. 30 years after, he competed at the very first WrestleMania. And obviously, you all know what happened here. Hulk Hogan fucking up and saying the Silverdome. He kept mixing up Silverdome instead of the actual New Orleans Saints host stadium, the Superdome. But the biggest thing here was three of the biggest names in WWE history: Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, coming out together, sharing the same ring together, and sharing their greatest WrestleMania moments and hyping up at the time the current generation of WWE and its wrestlers. It was a really great way to not only relive the past but get everyone hyped up for the remainder of the night. And obviously they were getting everyone ready for Daniel Bryan, obviously. So it was a really good opening segment, and obviously everyone will remember Hogan botching the Superdome name, Silverdome, brother. So then we get to the opening match between Daniel Bryan and Triple H. I guess they had this match on first, so they get ample time and rest for the main event later in the night. So Daniel Bryan and Triple H fought for the third spot in the WWE World Title Triple Threat match. At the time, there's only one single WWE Championship, unfortunately, because they had to get rid of the World Heavyweight Championship, and I'm sad about that. They couldn't bring it back, and during the second brand split in 2016, they just had to create the dumbass Universal Championship. They couldn't bring back the big gold belt. But I digress. So, I already discussed enough about the background of this feud. The crowd was obviously very hyped for the get-go, feeding off that energy from the opening segment moments ago. They were excited to see Daniel Bryan right away, but obviously, let's not forget Triple H's grand entrance that he put together. And early on, a lot of technical wrestling happening. Daniel Bryan got the early offense in. But the focal point of this match was Daniel Bryan's injured arm. I don't remember if that injured arm in the story happened during the assault Triple H put on Bryan like weeks ago, or if that happened like much earlier than that. I don't recall. It's been 7 years. So that was a focal point of this match, and Triple H would frequently target it. He would do arm jumping attacks. I don't know what the proper term for it is. He would do a cross-face chicken wings frequently. He would do a lot of arm targeting attacks onto Daniel Bryan's injured arm, and that became a huge focal point in the match. But as the hero rose up to the occasion, Daniel Bryan finally gained some momentum late in the match. But once he tried to go for the running knee, Triple H hit a spine buster and hit a pedigree, but Daniel Bryan kicked out to the delight of the crowd. And much later, in the finish of the match, Daniel Bryan hit the running knee and punched his ticket to the night's main event, and he's the third man in that triple threat between himself, Randy Orton, and Batista. But he wasn't going in there completely 100%, or at least 50%, because Stephanie McMahon, distracted him, slapped him in the face afterwards. Daniel Bryan was just smiling there, taking it, because I don't give a shit. It's like, you're slapping me, nothing to me. But it was all a distraction for Triple H to come attack him and whack him with the steel chair with his arm trapped into the ring post. So that was your opening match. At the time, I thought it was a really good match. The story being told that Daniel Bryan really wants Triple H. He finally gets his match against Triple H, but the announcers are selling it, as the match progresses, and Triple H is taking so much control of the match that, Daniel Bryan finally got his match versus Triple H, and he's getting his ass whooped, and that Triple H is injuring his arm so much, and this is the match you wanted. This is the match you're gonna get. And when I was retroactively watching it in preparation for this episode, I don't think it's as good as when I first watched it way back in 2014. That's when I was a junior in high school. I don't know. Maybe it's because my view on pro wrestling has changed so much. I don't know. I think maybe it was too long for what it was, because there are a lot of slow moments in the match. But, whatever they were going for at the time, they're trying to sell the story. I guess it worked. I guess it worked to its advantage. WWE booked Daniel as having to overcome his big time nemesis in Triple H and the Authority. And he finally did, to get to the main event, but unfortunately for him, he's not going to the main event, not even 50%. And now he has another hurdle to overcome, aside from getting past Randy Orton and Batista. He has to overcome the attack that Triple H just laid out on him. So that was your opening match. Some solid, good stuff there. I just don't think it was just as good as I probably remember it from 2014. So then we had this cool down match from the previous match before, the red hot opening match. So we had the Shield. We all remember the Shield. Dean Ambrose, now known as Jon Moxley, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns, who are now doing crazy things in WWE, versus Kane and the New Age Outlaws, Road Dogg and Billy Gunn. This match primarily happened because Kane wanted the Shield to attack Jerry Lawler, because he thought Jerry Lawler played a role in the hashtag Occupy Raw movement that happened literally weeks before WrestleMania. The whole Occupy Raw movement that Daniel Bryan led, that hijacked Raw for 2 segments. So the Shield instead attacked Kane, and they became, heroes in wrestling terms, baby faces for the first time. So Kane would get back at them on the next SmackDown in a fatal 4-way tag team match that was designed to bait the Shield into an attack by all the opposing teams, and all the opposing teams went on to attack the Shield, and Kane and the New Age Outlaws, once they were all groggy, Kane and the Outlaws attacked the Shield, laid waste to them, and that's why this match is happening. So from the get-go, this was pretty much a back-and-forth match. I think this match only lasted less than 5 minutes. Put it at that. I think it was only 3 or 4 minutes long. So this is pretty much a glorified squash match because the Shield hit a lot of their signature moves very quick, very early. But every member of the Shield like pretty much got tagged in. And most of the spotlight was shining on Roman Reigns. So the Shield win. They quickly dispatched of Kane and the Outlaws with a double triple powerbomb, and that's pretty much the only highlight of this match. The double triple powerbomb to Billy Gunn and Road Dogg. And honestly, even still watching it, I was kind of surprised to see how very short this match was. But, you know, I guess I could see it as a way, you know, yes, they're baby faces now. They were at the time baby faces. You know, the end result just remained the same, and this was just a way for them to establish themselves as the newest babyface group. So I guess it was what it was, but it was just kind of surprising to see how short it was when you consider the match right before the WWE title match later in the night could have also been much shorter, and this could have been given a little more time. So then we had the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, the very first of these what I like to call jobber orgies, because that's what it ended up being throughout the years leading up to the present, because that's all it was. That's pretty much all it was, unfortunately. It could have been something bigger. You know, it could have built a future star. Unfortunately, it's been relegated to the pre-show. It's been like whoever ended up winning it did nothing with these battle royal victories, and this was in no way to honor Andre the Giant. Which pretty much was why this match was invented. This match, introduced by Hulk Hogan, was a way to honor his late friend Andre the Giant. So there was a lot of people in this match, and I don't know if you guys remember any of these people, like David Otunga, Fandango. Fandango is still in NXT, I think, with Tyler Breeze. Tyson Kidd, Alberto Del Rio, Yoshitatsu, the Great Khali, who, by the way, is going into the Hall of Fame this year. A little fun fact for you there. And then there are a lot of guys that are still wrestling today, but, you know, were in different circumstances, like Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, Big E. So there was no New Day back then. Cody Rhodes was still in WWE. Goldust was still in WWE. Sheamus, he was pretty much floating around the mid card. So pretty much the big favorite in this match was, well, it's the Big Show. Yeah, the Big Show was pretty much the heavy favorite in this match because, obviously, he's, at the time, was the best comparison to Andre the Giant. So, yeah, a lot of eliminations happened fast-paced, and not too much happened. Kofi did have a WrestleMania moment by having a Royal Rumble moment, because he once again got saved by the Royal Rumble gods again when Cesaro tossed him over the top rope, but Kofi's feet touched the steel steps and not the floor. So he literally got saved once again in that Andre the Giant Battle Royal. But Kofi Kingston later got eliminated by Sheamus. And the final two in that first Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal came to the Big Show and Cesaro. And even though this Andre the Giant Battle Royal was pretty forgettable, there's always going to be that one moment in the match where it's like, whoa, this happened? And that whoa, this happened moment was when Cesaro lifted Big Show like Hogan lifted Andre at WrestleMania 3. Cesaro lifted Big Show up like the scoop slam and eliminated his ass to win the first ever Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Now, at the time, I think Cesaro was the right pick to win this Battle Royale. He didn't have a good night to start, losing that tag team title match. And you know what? To make up for that, he won the very first Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. And added to the fact, he actually got some respect to his name from the Big Show. They shook hands. Like, you know what? You got me there. I respect you for that. So, that could have been Cesaro's like defining moment in his career. That could have been the moment that launched him into like main event superstardom. But unfortunately for him, I don't know. I really don't know what happened to him. It's like he got paired with Paul Heyman, and that didn't work because Paul Heyman was focusing so much on being Brock Lesnar's advocate, and WWE tried to push him so frequently, but it led to nowhere. And on top of the fact that he doesn't have much character, much personality, much charisma, like on the mic, it didn't really help Cesaro, both back in the day and today. So as for the first Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, I mean, it's to be expected as a battle royal when it's full of jobbers. But they picked the right winner. But unfortunately, you all know what happened to this match concept at future WrestleManias. So then we had John Cena versus Bray Wyatt at the midpoint of WrestleMania 30. This match mainly happened because Wyatt at the time was not the Fiend. He was not having these Firefly Funhouse kid shows. He was this like cult leader. He was this false prophet that was telling these saying these things in a weird manner. That kind of Bray Wyatt. And he went after John Cena. He cost him multiple WWE title matches, with the at the time latest one being in the Elimination Chamber match. So Wyatt wanted to forever tarnish Cena's legacy. He wanted to break him both physically but especially mentally. He wanted to ruin his reputation of being a role model to younger fans. So a lot of the build was around Wyatt attempting to instill fear in Cena and bring him over to the dark side at WrestleMania 30. So it was kind of cool to see Wyatt have his theme song being performed live by whoever the band was doing that. And early on in the match, very early, when the match started, Wyatt attempted to sacrifice himself to Cena as this psychological ploy. He was like, "Come on, John, you can end this now. You can finish me here and then. Show the world that you can finish me." But Cena refused. He was just like, "Come on, let's fight. Let's do this now." And Wyatt obliged. Wyatt, and he got the early offense in. But once Wyatt started playing around too much, Cena finally got on the offense, but boy was he pissed. Cena got aggressive, and we got into what I call Act 2 of the match. This act would see Cena's vicious side. He would start to go after Wyatt aggressively, both physically and mentally. Wyatt was just every time that Cena would attack him very viciously, he would just laugh. He would just really just laugh it off. So meanwhile, you have Cena. He was just trying to keep his emotions in check, and that would come back to haunt him because every time he tried to get himself in check, Wyatt would take advantage of it, and it would get him back on offense. So there's also this cool moment in the match where Cena tried to go for a 5-knuckle shuffle, but Bray Wyatt got up into the spider walk position, and Cena literally freaked the freak out. Some of these fans were also doing the wave, and they were saying, "He's got the whole world in his hands," because that's what Wyatt was singing throughout this feud. And you all know what side of the wrestling community you were on that night. So then, much later, both men tried to put each other away with their best moves. Cena with the STF, and Wyatt with Sister Abigail. And after Wyatt hit Cena with Sister Abigail, Wyatt tried to put Cena through like this mental test. Wyatt got a steel chair and just outright gave it to Cena. This was literally a scene that would be replicated 6 years later in the Firefly Funhouse match that we saw at WrestleMania 36. You know, that cinematic acid trip. So Wyatt challenged Cena to hit him. You know, he wanted Cena to finish him. He wanted to show the world that he can finish him off. You know, be a true role model to children. Cena got pissed. Cena got angry. He was ready to hit Wyatt with the chair, but he instead hit Eric Rowan. So Wyatt tried to hit Sister Abigail, but Cena countered it into an attitude adjustment to win the match and protect his legacy. So yeah, that was pretty much John Cena versus Bray Wyatt. Now, I totally understand why people would have wanted Bray Wyatt to win at WrestleMania 30. Just retroactively looking back on it, it would have built legitimacy to his like false prophet character had he won. But you know, having Cena win this match actually ended up helping Wyatt later because, you know, had Wyatt won, there would be no reason to have the Firefly Funhouse match. There would be no reason for Wyatt to reinvent himself, and there would be no reason to revisit the feud with John Cena last year, or even at all. So overall, like, this match actually helped in the long run because, again, this ended up being a focal point in their Firefly Funhouse match. Yes, it did hurt Bray Wyatt in the short term and in the much later years, but I mean, look at Wyatt right now. He's doing some good work with The Fiend as The Fiend with Alexa Bliss, and whether you like it or not, if Randy Orton. So they ended up having 2 more matches at Extreme Rules and Payback. And Payback was their match at Payback, their last man standing match, was pretty good. It was pretty good. So looking back at it, I think Cena winning was the right call to make. And all I could say is the match itself was it was all right. But for the story they were trying to tell, it was more important. So let's take a quick break here. And when we come back, we're going to discuss a match that's actually very hard to discuss 7 years later because it involves the 1 in 21-1. And oh boy, this match is a very interesting one to not only rewatch, but to digest. So we'll be right back with more Very Cold Lasagna. And keep it locked in. Keep it the lasagna very cold, and stay tuned. I'll be right back. If you're listening to the Very Cold Lasagna podcast, or you've been listening to this podcast, but you're not subscribed, you're not following yet, then what are you waiting for? What are you doing? Are you okay? Maybe you should subscribe. You should follow. You should listen. You should do it today. You should do it now. But make sure you subscribe and turn on that notification bell on YouTube so you'll be notified of each and every episode that goes up on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, you get exclusive extras that don't go up onto the listening platforms. And speaking of the listening platforms, you can listen to the Very Cold Lasagna podcast via audio on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor FM. And you can follow me on social media via Twitter and Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna so you can see what the heck I'm doing outside of this podcast. Do it today and do it soon so you can keep your takes on sports and wrestling very cold. All right, welcome back to Very Cold Lasagna. And we're doing this retro review of WrestleMania 30. This took place on April 6th, I believe, 2014. I might get my dates mixed up, but anyway, it took place in April 2014. And we're pretty much halfway through this, what was at the time, a 4-hour show. Yes, WrestleManias were not like super ultra long at the time. Actually, this was like one of the last one of last 2 WrestleManias that were like, you know, fairly balanced, fairly short. with obviously WrestleMania 31 being like the last short WrestleMania before obviously the WrestleMania 36 being split into 2 nights, if you count that, I guess. But in terms of one night WrestleMania, WrestleMania 31 was the last short night one, and WrestleMania 30 was the second to last short night WrestleMania. But halfway through this card, it was okay. It was all right. Looking back at it, and obviously Daniel Bryan and Triple H set the tone for the rest of the night, and just looking back at it, I don't know. I don't know if I could say if it delivered on some aspects, but a lot of it, just looking back at it now, I don't know. I don't think it did. But now we get into the second half of this WrestleMania card, and it's streak time, baby. It is streak time. The time at the time of WrestleMania where the legendary streak of the Undertaker, which at the time was a whopping 21-0, where the Undertaker, the legendary dead man, had not lost one single match in his WrestleMania career. He hasn't lost a single match. The last match he had at WrestleMania, he defeated CM Punk, and I think was a really good match. And a lot of people consider that one of the all-time classics in Mania history. It was a really good match, and I know it's up for debate in one of the greatest WrestleMania matches in history. Now, nearly 1 year after that match happens, he has his first match against the Beast, Brock Lesnar. It's like an entirely different animal from CM Punk. And Brock Lesnar at the time was not the same dominant beast that he currently is, taking people to Suplex City, being this anomaly that it's very hard to take down. He gets up after almost every finisher. This Brock Lesnar was, a little more on the vulnerable side. This Brock Lesnar didn't use German suplexes all that often. Suplex City was born at SummerSlam 2014. It was just that prior to WrestleMania 30 in SummerSlam 2014 that the so-called magic of Lesnar wasn't quite there yet. It was slowly getting to that point. He was starting to be the true beast incarnate, but at that point, not quite there yet. So initially, Brock Lesnar could have been in the WWE title match, but the Authority was like, nope, you're not getting one. But as a compensation, as a consolation prize, we'll let you have a match at WrestleMania with anyone that's willing to face you going in. So Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman have a contract. Brock Lesnar already signed it, and he's just waiting for anyone that's willing to come out and face him at WrestleMania. And out comes the Undertaker to literally stab Brock Lesnar with the pen and chokeslam him through the table. And he's like, he doesn't need to sign no damn contract. I'm gonna sign a contract through putting you through a damn table. And for most of this feud, it's pretty much Paul Heyman doing all the talking. So Paul Heyman sells his client Brock Lesnar as this heartless, soulless beast that dies off of his tagline of eat, sleep, conquer, repeat, on his way to being the 1 in 21-1. So that was pretty much the selling point of the feud right there. Now, Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker have faced off so many times during the Ruthless Aggression era, back in the 2000s. But in my opinion, this match between the two was very significant. The most significant, the most important of their matchups, because Brock Lesnar is a much different animal than he was back in 2000. What was it? 2002, 2003. And the Undertaker obviously has his 21-0 streak on the line. He's defending that streak again. This time against a much big time beast in Brock Lesnar. So, honestly, throughout the match, it was very slow paced. And I guess that's the story, whether intentional or not. Now they're trying to tell. So, Lesnar, tried to get some early offense in, with a belly to belly suplex, early. But that only aggravated the Undertaker. And Undertaker tried to target Brock Lesnar. He tried to go after that shoulder he injured, in the hand that he stabbed with the pen. But once Lesnar went for Undertaker's leg, Lesnar spent a large portion of the match weakening the Undertaker, and you can clearly tell something was wrong with Undertaker at this point in the match when Lesnar started hard striking him and kicking him, using his MMA UFC background to weaken the Undertaker. And I don't know what happened here. I still can't figure out where it happened, but I don't blame Lesnar here. But I'm trying to figure out like where the Undertaker suffered a concussion here, because I think this is where the match started to hurt a lot. Like the Undertaker was like drifting. His eyes were like wide open, like drug shot, and I just feel like they're trying to make something happen with this match, but like the Undertaker was concussed. Brock Lesnar was like trying to get him going, but nothing was like happening. The pace slowed dramatically. But the Undertaker tried to make the best of it. He tried to put away Lesnar with choke slam. Lesnar hit an F5 later on. Then they went to like put each other through their submission holds, but they couldn't get either one to tap. And Brock Lesnar later countered Old School with another F5, but Undertaker kicked out. And because Undertaker was concussed, Undertaker was barely able to hit the last ride and the Tombstone Piledriver. And after the Tombstone, Lesnar kicked out. So Undertaker signaled for the end. He wanted to go for potentially the last Tombstone Piledriver, but Lesnar reversed it, and he hit the third F5. And well, once he hit that third F5, he went for that pin attempt. Yeah, you know what happened from there. Looking back at this match, it's honestly remains like one of the biggest like shocking moments in wrestling history, not just in WWE, in wrestling history. It's like nobody thought that the streak would be broken. Like nobody did. And if it did, it ended up being broken. Like who is going to be the one that broke the streak? Like who would be the rightful one to break the streak? Who's going to be that person that breaks the streak? Like who could benefit off of breaking the streak? And honestly, that's what a lot of people still discuss to this day. What if the streak was never broken? Like, why did Brock Lesnar break the streak? Like, who is most suitable to break the streak instead of Brock Lesnar? Like, why did WWE pull the trigger to break the streak at WrestleMania 30? And if I remember correctly, The Undertaker mentioned this a few times, most recently being on the Broken Skull sessions on the network, on the WWE network, that they made the decision to end the streak at on the day of WrestleMania 30. So interesting stuff there. And it was just like interesting to not only see the reaction for the first time, but also like seeing it again retroactively, because the moment the ref hit the third and final count, fans immediately got up fans immediately like were vocally and visually stunned at what they just saw. Again, nobody saw this coming. Like nobody thought WWE was going to like end it. Like forget everything that happened in the match, like whether it was good or bad. Like because regardless if the match was good, like everything in this match was like pretty forgettable. Like, which is kind of a shame because Undertaker suffered a concussion during it. And I will say, Brock Lesnar needs to incorporate more of his UFC background instead of like relying on Suplex City so much. But it's just so crazy, you know. The streak was like this, like landmark WrestleMania element that, you know, can never be duplicated. It's just like once Brock Lesnar like hit the 3, like everyone was just literally waiting for either the Undertaker to go 22-0, or like no, like they didn't think on the back of their minds that Brock Lesnar could actually do it. And once Brock Lesnar actually did it, like through a what was pretty much a long and honestly, like again, a forgettable slow match, like once that 3 count hit, everyone was like, "Oh shit, it actually happened." And to this day, I really like, you know, the effect that WWE laid out. They let the shock, they let the stun effect, like, you know, the shock factor sit in for a good several minutes. You know, let the emotion like sit in with the fans, the wrestlers, whether they were watching in the back or the Lesnar or Undertaker themselves, the commentators. They let this thing like ride out, this initial reaction ride out for several minutes, because again, nobody expected it. Nobody at the time was like thinking that this thing was ending today. Like nobody thought Brock Lesnar was going to be the one in 21-1, and lo and behold, WWE booked it so that Brock Lesnar was the one in 21-1. And, you know, it's just crazy that he actually did it. And we all know what happened with Lesnar. Following that, he went on to win the WWE title in very dominant fashion. That was the debut of Suplex City at SummerSlam 2014 against John Cena. And from then on, Brock Lesnar pretty much became a suplex machine. And honestly, he could have been so much more than just a suplex machine. But, you know, WWE realized that he, you know, people like that. So I guess it helped the Brock Lesnar be a more marketable name. But if you want my honest opinion on who should have ended the streak, honestly, looking at who could have been the biggest name to end the streak and who could have benefited off, I know it's going to sound really weird, but I'm going to say John Cena. John Cena could have been like the best name to end that streak. Now, yes, he is one of the most polarizing wrestlers of all time, but you have this dream match, which they ended up doing at WrestleMania 34, but obviously, it's not even considered a match. But if you put John Cena and The Undertaker, and if Undertaker never got hurt, and if he had a little bit left of his prime, like his last legs at WrestleMania 30, you put this dream match and you have John Cena beat The Undertaker like in the middle of that ring with an attitude adjustment, then can you imagine the reaction that that Superdome would have had if Cena beat the streak? Like, not only would they be stunned, not only would they be emotionally hurt, not only would they be shocked and all that, they would have like been pissed at Cena that night. They would have been angry at him, and with that anger, that would have gave WWE so much ammunition. They could have been presented an opportunity for one more mega heel run with John Cena. You know, have him go around saying, "Oh, I'm the man that was the 1 in 21 and 1," and you know, like have Cena go into slow, dark descent of villainy. But you know, it's just kind of crazy how things could have gone if Cena was the 1 in 21. But you know, it's just interesting when you look back on it. As for the Undertaker, honestly, this should have been his last match. This should have been the match where like he retired, because honestly, like when the streak was broken, like honestly, that's when it should have been, like the Undertaker's career should have ended, because like what more did he have to prove after that? Like what more did he have to prove after the streak ended? Like there was nothing left for him to do. Like these matches with Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family, and against Shane McMahon and Roman Reigns, Goldberg. Now, granted, the AJ Styles match, the match at WrestleMania 36 last year, was actually a well-produced match. I'll give it that. But other than that, he didn't look very good. He didn't look very good in the other matches that he had following the end of the streak. So I think, you know, the end of the streak, like even in defeat, you know, everyone was clapping for him. Everyone was saying thank you, Taker, and you know, like if he announced he was done, like if he was retiring, you know, this was I think even in defeat, would have been the best way to go out. You know, this would have been the best way to like go out. It's like, oh, I lost, but you know, I still had the then best record at WrestleMania. So I don't know. It's still like an interesting like topic of discussion to this day. Like, should the streak ended? Should The Undertaker retired following the end of the streak? Should Brock Lesnar been the one to defeat the streak? Who would have been a better substitute? And again, my mind, it should have been John Cena. But it's just like, you know, kind of like not only difficult to reflect 7 years later, but kind of like crazy that this still happened. And wow, I'm honestly still like kind of stunned talking about it, if you ask me. So right before the main event, we had some women action, some Divas action. Yeah, they weren't called women wrestlers back in the day. They were called Divas because, yeah, that was still a thing back in the day. So they had the Vicky Guerrero Divas Championship Invitational. I guess they placed it here because they needed a way to cool down fans from that stunning ending just moments ago. And yeah, this was definitely a match needed to help fans try to calm down after the streak literally just ended. And all I could say is, like, there was nothing memorable about this match other than this chick named Cameron like having a near wardrobe malfunction because her bra, the back of her bra, like snapped off, and she was clutching it like a lot, and if she didn't hold on to it, like, and yeah, she didn't hold on to it, like the bra like would have been lost, and you would have seen like melons on pay-per-view. That would have been crazy. You would have seen melons, some big old tatas, and all hell would have broken loose. So I want to see if any of you, whether you're watching or listening or what have you to this podcast, remember any of these names. Do you remember Eva Marie, Alicia Fox, Summer Rae, Rosa Mendez, Emma, now known as Tenille Dashwood, Cameron, as I mentioned before, Layla, and Oksana? Do you remember any of those names? Any of those names when you compare it to today's women's division? That's how far we came. And then you also have the divas that, actually not only were hot, depending on your definition of hot, and could either decently or actually wrestle. There's AJ Lee, the Bellas, Nikki and Brie, Natalia, and Tamina. Now Tamina, wasn't actually hot, but yeah, they were okay. Now, granted, the only ones that were both hot and could decently or actually wrestle was AJ and Nikki. Now, at the time, Nikki Bella was smoking. She was smoking, and was slowly but surely improving in the ring. She has actually committed to improving her in-ring work, and that's something I can respect about Nikki Bella. Is like, unlike Brie, she was willing to improve her craft, and well, WWE eventually rewarded her with a very long Divas Championship run, and that's all I can say nice about that. And other than that, yeah, there's no chance. There's literally no chance this got over with the fans, because again, they were literally just so stunned. They were still like trying to like comprehend the fact that the streak ended. Like, you literally just put this match just like moments after like the streak died, and that this match was set up for failure. And well, granted, if you put this, if the WWE title match was right after the streak just ended, then I don't know how well Daniel Bryan's like special moment at the end of WrestleMania 30 would have been. Like, because people were still sad about the streak ending, and then you transition immediately to the WWE title match, and I don't know like how that would have like fared for people. So in regards to this Divas title match, I understand a lot of people didn't care. I mean, back in the day, nobody cared about the women's matches other than AJ Lee, who ended up winning the match. So nobody cared. Everyone was still trying to comprehend the fact the streak was over. Even the commentators, Michael Cole, Jerry Lawler, JBL, were not even talking about this match. They were talking about the streak ending. And it was only until halfway through this very short match that they started to give two shits about this match. So, again, I know there's a lot of people in the IWC at the time and today that prefer have preferences over like the women's wrestlers. They're women's wrestlers. Some of them like it hot, and some of them like them for their actual wrestling ability. I like that. For me, I like that healthy balance. I want them to look, oh yeah, and to also for them to also, that can actually perform in the ring. So you gotta have that nice healthy balance. You gotta be able to do it, but also look it, if you know what I mean. But anyway, for the match itself, yeah, nothing special. Pretty much it was just a match for people to calm down about the streak dying. But as you know, from there, the so-called revolution started to take shape very slowly. Paige, former NXT Women's Champion, debuted the next night on Raw, and made her debut on on Raw. I'm sorry, I'm repeating my words because I my nose was itchy for a second. And she won the Divas title from AJ on her very first night, and slowly but surely made paved the way for the mainstays of NXT like Charlotte, Sasha, Bayley, and Becky Lynch to make their way to the main roster, because down in NXT they were putting on wrestling showcases for the next year, and again they would eventually make their way to the main roster, and their impact was eventually felt from putting on good matches, depending on who you are and what your preferences are. And then they went on to main event pay-per-views, and then we eventually have an all-women's pay-per-view in Evolution, and then we'd have a women's Royal Rumble match every year, and then we'd have like women's tag team championships. So WWE has come a long way with their women's division. They started to change course with how it was going to be represented since 2015 and onward. So whether or not casual fans like it, it's another discussion for another day, because all I can say is a good chunk of them either like it or they are completely turned off by it. And well, that's something. That is really something. So as for the match itself, yeah, very forgettable. So now we finally have the main event. The WWE World Heavyweight Champion Randy Orton taking on the 2014 Royal Rumble winner Batista and the winner of the opening match of the night, Daniel Bryan. Just like with the Daniel Bryan versus Triple H match, I'm not going to talk about it, about the background of this match, like, you know, the background of the overall feud that much, because, you know, if you made it this far into the podcast, congratulations. Consider subscribing and following. I'll give you a virtual or a listening cookie, I guess. Because I already talked about that overall arcing storyline in length. But in short, to keep it brief, or if you just skim through this podcast, Batista won the Royal Rumble in 2014, but fans outright rejected him. They wanted Daniel Bryan to not only be in there, but to win so he can get a WWE title match against Randy Orton. So these fans, most of them being the large vocal majority or the minority, and this minority were like internet wrestling fans and some select casual fans. They went on to hijack certain segments of Raw and SmackDown, and WWE eventually caved, and they made Daniel Bryan face and beat Triple H on his way to the main event later in the night at WrestleMania 30. So if you rewatched this match, this crowd early on was still trying to recover from the death of Undertaker's streak. Like when Daniel Bryan came out, they were trying their best to chant along with Daniel Bryan. They're trying to chant yes, 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 but they were just still emotionally shook by the end of the streak, and I can't blame them one bit. I would be personally hurt too. So just like with the match with Triple H, Daniel's injured arm, which was hampered even more by Triple H's post-match attack, was a focal point. It became an early target for Batista and Randy Orton, and they targeted that so Randy Orton and Batista can go at it one another, so they can go fight each other in their pure one-on-one match. So Daniel Bryan eventually got his way back into this match with a double drop kick onto Randy Orton and Batista, gave them some yes kicks. And then Daniel Bryan managed to get the yes lock onto Randy Orton, but out came Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, and Triple H pulled out Mike Chioda, the original referee, and brought in their fixed referee, Scott Armstrong, to count a Batista bomb. And Triple H and Stephanie were expecting a fast count, but, you know, Scott Armstrong can't make that obvious that he's a crooked referee. Bryan kicked out, and Triple H was pissed off. So Daniel Bryan eventually kicked Scott Armstrong in the head and kicked him out of the ring, and he hit a dive onto the entire Authority. So that finally woke up the crowd. But as they did, Triple H brought out his trusty sledgehammer, only to have Daniel Bryan use it against him. So Orton finally got back in the match, and along with Batista, they momentarily teamed up to try and take out Bryan for good. And they seemed like they accomplish that goal when they hit a Batista bomb RKO combo through the announce table, and that led to Daniel Bryan being stretchered out of the match, at least momentarily. So Batista attacked Randy Orton like a couple minutes later, so they can have their 1v1. But as they were doing so, as they were fighting each other, Daniel Bryan was fighting off the medical staff so he can get back into the match, getting off the stretcher. And as soon as Randy saw this, he reacted accordingly. So much later, Batista was trying to spear Randy Orton. But Randy jumped out of the way, hit Daniel Bryan right in the head, and Randy Orton hit Batista with an RKO, but only got a 2 count. So Randy got desperate. Randy wanted to punt Batista's head off, wanted to send him in the hospital, like he tried to do in 2009. But Daniel Bryan hit the running knee on Orton, and Batista tried to steal it by throwing Daniel Bryan out of the ring, but Batista only got a 2 count. So Batista hit a Batista bomb on Orton, and that sent him out of the ring. And Daniel Bryan hit the knee onto Batista and locked in the yes lock to eventually make Batista tap and make the impossible dream a reality. So kind of like a full-on irony that Daniel Bryan, the chosen one, the fans' favorite, make the hand-picked favorite, the company pick, tap out at WrestleMania. So, in my opinion, like, my match was good, but what makes this match like special, one of the best in WrestleMania history, was the story, the culmination of Daniel Bryan's like very long journey to even get to this point. This is like, again, this is a dude that was pretty much one of the like indie standouts in the 2000s that jumped onto the scene in WWE in 2010 as just another guy on the NXT reality show, like, and he could have just been another guy, but WWE gave him an opportunity as this arrogant world heavyweight champion that said yes all the time, and his popularity skyrocketed when he lost the World Heavyweight Championship in 18 seconds at WrestleMania 28. And once he built himself back up, the Authority tried to bring him back down. And most fans thought that WWE was trying to give up on him after Hell in a Cell 2013, but no, they didn't want to give up on him. And they made that loud and clear at the 2014 Royal Rumble. So, in my opinion, the start and the end of Daniel Bryan's journey was like one of the best things that WWE did in WrestleMania history and its lifetime, in my opinion. Now, whether it hurts them in the long run, whether it did hurt them in the long run, is another story. It's just a matter of them finally listening to the fans. Now, granted, in fairness, these fans were like, a large portion of them were like the vocal like internet smarks, but there were some select casuals, select core fans that actually wanted this to happen, and truth be told, I was actually one of these people that wanted Daniel Bryan to have his moment at WrestleMania. Again, I was at a time in high school that wanted Daniel Bryan to have his moment at WrestleMania 30. Yeah, I was. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie to you. That I wanted Daniel Bryan to have his happy ending at WrestleMania 30. But why? Why is the title of this retro review a very polarizing WrestleMania. Well, as I mentioned before, as I mentioned frequently, not everyone wanted this. Not every wrestling fan wanted this, especially a lot of casuals. Because casuals didn't like Daniel Bryan for a lot of reasons. He lacked the muscular build. He didn't have the look of a wrestler like Batista and Randy Orton. He looked like that hardcore wrestling fan, the one that you would see, the template that you see on from that South Park episode, Make Love Not Warcraft, that you would see often in memes and stuff. Not only that, his moveset is limited to kicks and dives, which in fairness still is to this day. And his whole gimmick was based around saying yes all the time, again, which was first done by UFC fighter Diego Sanchez. So there was a lot of reasons, and in fairness, valid reasons for why casual fans didn't want Daniel Bryan to exactly be WWE champion at WrestleMania 30. So in fairness, it had a lot of valid points for why Daniel Bryan shouldn't have had a WrestleMania moment to begin with. Now, also in fairness, Daniel Bryan's popularity and eventual WrestleMania 30 win also resulted in a slow downturn for WWE. Now, some of it can be blamed on Daniel Bryan, but not all of it is blamed on Daniel, because for as good as a technical wrestler Daniel Bryan is, again, not everyone saw it that way. Not everyone cares about the technical wrestling. Not everyone cares about the character that Daniel Bryan was trying to play as. They wanted to see actual wrestlers, the wrestlers that looked like wrestlers, that had character, that had personality, that had charisma. And for some fans, Daniel Bryan didn't fit the mold. And once Daniel Bryan won the WWE title, well, a lot of things happened since then. So ratings would start to dip over the years because WWE started this trend of pushing the so-called vanilla midgets. In other words, wrestlers that were less than 250 pounds, or 230 pounds actually. And they were pretty much I would like to call them the Young Buck clones. The Cucks of Suck clones. That do all the flips and kicks with no character and shit. Just look at the people that they're pushing now, like Adam Cole, Finn Balor, Sasha Banks, and who else are they pushing? Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, and there's a lot of people that I can list. Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano. A lot of characterless, charisma vacuums that a lot of people casuals, cores don't like, but that hardcore fans do like. So that's why that started at WrestleMania, after WrestleMania 30. And not only that, the technical work rate started to take a lot of heavy emphasis on WWE programming, and characters, personality, charisma, and storylines became a much less emphasis on the television product. Yeah. And you're seeing a lot of indie style wrestling, and not just on NXT and AEW, but it's starting to make its way towards the mainline WWE shows in Raw and SmackDown. So that's that. And lastly, because of Daniel Bryan, this is also this, I think, is the main. This is where I bring in the part where some of it is on Daniel Bryan. Because of Daniel Bryan's yes movement, fans would become even more entitled and vocal than ever following WrestleMania 30. Because if they didn't get something they wanted, they would voice their complaints at live shows or on social media. It it was just crazy. It was just a crazy, like, I don't know. Would you call it side effect? Would you call it like? Would you really call it a lasting like consequence that this main event would have? I don't know. I think so. Now, as for Daniel Bryan, now even though he had his happy ending, the aftermath surely wasn't happy at all. It wasn't like sunshine and rainbows at all, because a lot of real life shit happened to Daniel Bryan after he won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. His father passed away a week after WrestleMania, so he had to take time off to mourn, and then he suffered a neck injury at some point after Extreme Rules. And he required surgery on that neck injury, and eventually was stripped of the world title before Money in the Bank, and he had to like take time off like to regain strength in his neck, and also that right arm that he lost strength in. So once he came back, he had that brief 2015 run where he lost the Royal Rumbles. He lost the Royal Rumble match, and you know what happened to Roman Reigns' reputation for the better part of 5 years because of that. Bryan lost to Roman Reigns at Fastlane that year, like literally 6 years before he lost to Roman Reigns again at the same event. And Bryan would win the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania 31 in a ladder match, only to vacate it a month and a half later because of concussion issues. So, yeah, it was starting to look bad for Daniel Bryan's in-ring career, and his in-ring career at the time, if it closed in 2016 because Daniel Bryan retired due to the various concussion issues he suffered. And it sucked because when you wrestled this high impact, this high flying style, like a lot, especially when you're on the indies, it takes a toll on you. It really does. And Daniel Bryan wrestled this like very aggressive style that does take a toll on you once you get older. And he suffered, I think he documented like 10 concussions in like that ESPN interview when he initially retired. So that was not good. That was not good for him. It's very concerning. It was very concerning for him. So, like during his first retirement, he was SmackDown general manager, but he didn't do much during his first retirement other than that. But he was finally cleared to compete before WrestleMania 34. When he did compete at WrestleMania 34 in the same place where he had that WrestleMania moment in the Silverdome, brother, he defeated Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens in a tag team match with Shane McMahon. But yeah, pretty much Daniel Bryan was back. Daniel Bryan was back, ladies and gentlemen, because since then, he turned heel before Survivor Series of that year. He won the WWE title from AJ Styles, and he underwent this new phase of his career that saw him incorporate some of his vegan and environmentalist lifestyle into his then new Daniel Bryan gimmick. And we all know what happened at WrestleMania 35 with Kofi Mania. So after Kofi Mania, there was nothing to note that happened to Daniel Bryan other than attempting to revive the Yes movement, losing the various mid-carders during the COVID-19 pandemic, air humping Otis at the beginning of 2021, losing this year's Royal Rumble match, and losing multiple Universal title matches to Roman Reigns, including this month's Fastlane. So in the span of 7 years, Daniel Bryan went from being one of the top guys in WWE to being just a dude. Just like when he first started in WWE, like in NXT, he's just another dude now. trying to relive his glory days. And that's why I wanted to make this retro review in the first place. The reason why Daniel Bryan being in the main event at WrestleMania 30 worked was because most fans wanted him to have his happy ending. He had a lot of fans, whether it's the vocal smarks or a casual fan that actually wanted to see Daniel Bryan have a happy moment. He was the consistent talking point every week on Raw, SmackDown, leading up to WrestleMania 30. And fans really wanted to see it happen. They wouldn't care about most other things. I mean, other than Daniel Bryan and The Undertaker and Brock Lesnar. But now, though, like, as we're heading into WrestleMania 37, WWE is trying to recreate that WrestleMania 30 feeling with WWE, Daniel Bryan. Like, they're trying to insert him into the Universal title match between Roman Reigns and Edge. Inevitably, it's going to happen. I don't know if it already happened when they announced it on SmackDown. At the time it aired. But let me just ask you all this. What has Daniel Bryan done to warrant inclusion in the Universal title match this year at WrestleMania 37? He's lost the Royal Rumble to Edge. He's lost to Roman Reigns twice. And prior to that, he booked himself to lose on a regular basis to mid-carders like Cesaro, Shinsuke, Seth Rollins. This is the same dude that dry-humped Otis at the beginning of this year. And fans really want Daniel Bryan to headline WrestleMania with Roman Reigns and Edge. Really. You know, if WWE really wanted Daniel Bryan to be in the Universal title match versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania on night 2, they should have just had him win the Royal Rumble instead of Edge, and not have Edge in the Rumble at all. Like, this is on WWE. Like, they shouldn't have had Edge return 6 days before the Royal Rumble and have fans' expectations be on Edge winning the Rumble, going number 1, and surviving the entire gauntlet, win the Rumble, and, you know, go through weeks and weeks of trying to decide who he's gonna face. And once he picked Roman Reigns, then they completely shit the bed and, like, not even focus on the storyline. Instead, focus on Daniel Bryan and his story. Like, what are they doing here? What the hell are they doing here? Like, you had this dream match of Edge versus Roman, Spear versus Spear. Edge trying to complete this comeback story of retiring in 2011, having to vacate the World Heavyweight Championship, which, although it doesn't exist, it still plays into the story of him trying to reclaim a world title he never lost. He returned at the Royal Rumble of 2020. He had 2 matches against Randy Orton. In the second match, he suffered a setback in his comeback because he injured his shoulder, so he had to wait several months. He had to recuperate for several months so he can come back. And then when he was ready to come back, he entered the Royal Rumble. The same Rumble match a year prior that, well, he made his return in. And when he entered the Royal Rumble at number 1, he ran through the gauntlet and won the entire damn thing. And should rightfully deserve to be in the main event of WrestleMania. And once he picked Roman, that's when WWE should have went all in on the build for this match. But they never gave it one single chance. They never get one single chance to develop. They never gave it one single chance to, progress it, advance it, because Daniel Bryan wanted to play hero ball. Daniel Bryan wanted to have one last gasp of glory. All because of what? He loves wrestling? Like, that's it? That's all you got? Really? I don't understand it. I really don't understand why Daniel Bryan should be in the main event of WrestleMania with Roman and Edge. Like, there are other things that he can do. Like, he could have, been in a match with Seth Rollins on night 2. Like, isn't that good enough compensation for all you guys, for all you smarks? Like, really? Like, I just don't get it. I really don't. So once this once this triple threat inevitably becomes a thing with Roman, Edge, and Daniel Bryan, all the large hardcore fans, all the smarks, are going to be creaming their pants going, oh yeah, oh shit, Daniel Bryan is going to be in the title match, the Universal title match at WrestleMania. We don't give a damn if he's going to eat the pin to Edge or Roman. He's finally back in the main event. He finally deserves... Unbelievable. They just ruined another dream match. They just completely ruined WrestleMania. If once it inevitably gets confirmed officially. Let me give you all a reality check to end the show. Daniel Bryan had a compelling case to be in the main event of WrestleMania 30. He had the fans support. He had the story to back it up. He had everything going for him at his peak. He has nothing here. He has absolutely nothing here. He has no yes movement, and whatever's left of the yes movement is all dusted up crickets. And you dusted up crickets, all you smarks out there, have completely ruined this dream match from happening between Edge and Roman, because all you want is a much blander Daniel Bryan to be in this main event match versus the more red hot Roman Reigns and what you consider a third wheel Edge. Get over yourself, seriously. And that was why I made this whole retro review of WrestleMania 30, because the difference between WrestleMania 30, Daniel Bryan, and WrestleMania 37, Daniel Bryan, inevitably, is that Daniel Bryan, going into WrestleMania 30, had the most momentum. He had so much momentum going for him. The fans, the WWE's as unlikely support. They caved. They didn't want to do it, but the fans got so loud that they pulled the trigger. They gave what they wanted. What are we doing here with WrestleMania 37? This doesn't feel anything special. This really doesn't. Man. Oh my god. I'm ready to burst the bubble, but if I burst the bubble, I'm gonna wake everyone up right now. I really am. Oh my god. So in retrospect, WrestleMania 30 was defined by technically three matches: Daniel Bryan's opening match and his main event match, which at the time were good matches, and The Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar. So Daniel Bryan had his happy ending, which he might get again at WrestleMania 37, because he wants to please all the internet fans that want to go, oh yeah, Daniel Bryan, oh. And then you had the end of the streak at WrestleMania 30 that nobody ever saw coming at the time, and it was just crazy. And then everything else that was there was just filler, to be honest with you. There were some cool moments, like I still dig that Shield double triple powerbomb, that triple double. And then you had Cesaro's elimination of the Big Show that resembled WrestleMania 3, that scoop slam of Andre by Hulk Hogan. And then you had I didn't even mention the legend cameos. You had I can't remember, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Roddy Piper, Mean Gene Okerlund, and then obviously the 2014 Hall of Fame class headlined by Ultimate Warrior. It's just kind of sad that he passed away 2 days after. So pretty much WrestleMania 37 or 2030 was his last appearance. So rest in peace, Ultimate Warrior. So pretty much the moral of this today's podcast, which is going to end up very long, is that the Daniel Bryan of today does not deserve to main event WrestleMania 37 with Edge and Roman Reigns, even if it's made official, which they probably have by now. Daniel Bryan of today, in contrast to WrestleMania 30, Daniel Bryan does not deserve to be in the match with Edge and Roman. If WWE is smart, keep it as Edge versus Roman, but they probably didn't. And if they didn't, they completely ruined WrestleMania 37 for me, and probably for a lot of people. And with that, I'm probably gonna end it here. So thank you for tuning into this very long retro review of WrestleMania 30, and thank you for tuning into episode number 16 of Very Cold Lasagna. And I hope you guys stayed with me to the very end, as I lost my shit about Daniel Bryan, today's Daniel Bryan at least. So thank you for tuning in. I appreciate all the support you've been giving me through these first 2 months of the podcast's existence. And if you're not already, make sure you subscribe, turn on the notification bell on YouTube, so you'll be notified of each and every upload that goes live on the channel. And if you're listening to me in the audio format, make sure to listen to me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor FM, and always follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna. And as always, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with their hot and cold takes of sports and pro wrestling. And, you know, I just hope WrestleMania 37 is salvageable. But if they add Daniel Bryan, which they probably will, I don't know. I'm probably gonna lose my shit on that too. But anyway, thank you all for tuning in. I'll see you all next time. Take care, and I'm out.